Hello, sound designers and audio engineers everywhere. I'm Sammy Worm, and welcome back to another week of We Design, the video series where we design digital and analog sound systems together in order to optimize live performances. Today, we'll be talking about using an equalizer tool in order to get rid of any disruptive noises, find the fundamental frequencies of your space, and optimize the clarity and richness of your voice. When you're preparing any audio, including voices in a live space, it's important to know how to equalize the sound in the room in order to boost the presence of your voice in the in your audience's ears and lower any other frequencies that might get in the way of performers being heard. In order to accomplish our goal today, I'll be teaching you how to use an equalizer. But first, we'll talk about how to find the fundamental frequencies of a space, how to be rid of disruptive noises, how to increase clarity and diction in voice, and why certain frequencies feel better in our ears. Let's jump in. Today, I'll be using Logic X Pro to display the uses of an equalizer. Here we see my equalizer, showing a range of 20 to 20,000 hertz, which is the average range of perceivable sound for humans. We'll be using this example project to play with today, which includes a voice and the sounds of the room that I'm in right now. When we increase or decrease the volume of certain or presence of certain frequencies, like I will show you, we can change our overall sound dramatically. For example, if we listen to the initial sound of my voice here, this is a test audio vocal. And then we use our equalizer tool to cut out the high and low frequencies. It sounds like we're speaking out of a really, really tiny vintage speaker, or like we're underwater, like this. This is a test audio vocal. This is a test audio vocal. So, that is what EQ is. It changes the presence or volume of different bands of frequencies of our sound. Why do we need to change the presence of different frequencies when performing live? Well, the natural frequencies produced by a room could be very sonically overwhelming. As you can see in this infographic, when a sound is produced in a room, it doesn't go directly to your ear, but it reflects on the walls around the room and eventually gets to you. So the frequencies, the fundamental frequencies and natural resonances of the room can get in the way of your hearing. A really great example of this is an experiment done called I Am Sitting in a Room by Alvin Lucier. So he explains what he's doing in this. In this clip, we'll see that as he records himself in a room and plays it back, recording the playback again and again with no edits, the natural frequencies of the room are much stronger than his voice and eventually take over completely, rendering his voice inaudible.
I am sitting in a room different from the one you are in now. I am recording the sound of my speaking voice, and I am going to play it back into the room again and again until the resonant frequencies of the room reinforce themselves, so that any semblance of my speech, with perhaps the exception of rhythm, is destroyed. What you will hear then are the natural resonant frequencies of the room articulated by speech. I regard this activity not so much as a demonstration of a physical fact, but more as a way to smooth out any irregularities my speech might have. I am sitting in a room
So here he's playing
different
himself
from
back,
the one you are in now.
the same audio recording. So as I skip through
I
it,
am
you'll see
recording the
lose
sound of
more
my
of his
speaking
voice
voice,
and gain more of the sounds of the room.
articulated by speech. I regard this activity not so much as a demonstration of a physical fact, but more as a way to smooth out
see, by the end of his experiment, there is no semblance of voice left, and all you are hearing here is the natural frequencies of the room that Al Lucier was sitting in. In order to find our fundamental frequency and natural resonances of our space, we can do a bunch of fancy math. However, instead, we'll be using our handy EQ tool. So if I move over to the room audio right here, and we check out this EQ. And the way that you could do this is just before any performance, record your space for 1 minute with your audience present to see what frequency is most present in that room with all of the people in the space, because that can change when the face is filled up. And then we're going to target that frequency and lower it significantly. So first, let's find the frequency. So if I solo the room as I did, and I play it, it might seem like there's nothing going on, but that's actually just because this is a very quiet recording. So if we lift all these frequency bands, and I'm gonna just use a filter to lift it even more, we can see that there's a lot of frequencies going on in this place. And most rooms' fundamental frequency is gonna be between 20 and 200 hertz. So the loudest frequencies that we're seeing here are around 50 and 150 hertz. Luckily for me, my voice does not go that low. I would say the lowest that my voice is going to be is maybe 200 hertz. So in my vocal, when we go over here, I actually can just, taking out the crazy thing that we did before, I can just cut out frequencies 150 and under to get out the really low presence of the fundamental frequency and the natural resonances that are happening down there. And this EQ, this is a test audio vocal. This is a test audio vocal. They don't seem very loud. They are part of the test audio vocal. Very, very, get rid of some of those high frequencies. This is a test audio vocal. This is a test audio vocal. So we'll listen to it without. This is a test audio vocal. This is a test audio vocal. And with. This is a test audio vocal. This is a test audio vocal. This is a test audio vocal. You can use the bands to navigate the EQ. And this is a test audio vocal. Use presence in different bands to find any other natural resonances and make sure this is a test audio vocal. You're hearing the clarity of your voice rather than. This is a test audio vocal. Pushing of the room, for example, right here. This is a test audio vocal. A lot of disruptive sounds. This is a test audio vocal. This is a test audio vocal. Right there's a lot of disruptive sounds. This is a test audio vocal. We can just pull those right down. So we got rid of all of those disruptive noises, which is excellent. So we did that by looking at an analysis of our room. And it's helpful to note that the human voice, even basses, not just my voice, usually don't go below about 80 hertz. So I would definitely feel free to cut off all that low muddiness right out completely, even if you don't do it as aggressively as I did. The only reason that I would do it that aggressively as I wouldn't in a song is because it's a speech audio, and I don't feel that we're really losing anything in the very high or low frequency ranges that I cut out. So the next thing to do when dealing with the voice is to increase the clarity and the good feeling in our ears when we listen. So the first thing that we're going to do, now that we have all those pesky sounds of the room out of the way, is focus on increasing the clarity and richness of our performers' voices. So in order to do this, let's talk about how speech and sound perception works. We'll do this by using two of my favorite graphs, the speech banana and the Fletcher-Munson equal loudness curve. So we're going to start with this speech banana, of course. So This is it. As we see here, the speech banana displays how different sounds are perceived at different loudness levels and frequencies. In order to increase how crisp and understandable our voice is while making sure that it's not too sharp to listen to, we must do a few things. We want to lower our plosives and sibilants. Plosive sounds are sounds like P, G, CH, and K, so P, G, Ch, K, as well as sounds. So those are our plosive sounds, and then our sibilant sounds are sounds like S, F, Th, and T, which make our speech frustrating to listen to if they're too exaggerated for too long. So we can see that most of our plosive sounds occur mostly around 2000 hertz right here, and our sibilant sounds occur mostly between 4 to 5000 hertz. Of course, the overtones of these sounds can occur higher, even above 10K hertz. Um, so I would run a sound check on performers speaking the sentence, "I am frustrated because my plants will not grow," or play back a piece of audio with a lot of these sounds. Um, let's notch out very narrow bands that lower these sounds. And it's actually quite helpful that if we look, the natural resonances of the room have us covered for right around 4,000, 5,000 hertz right here for those sibilant noises, and around 2,000 hertz. Let's see, I don't know that I have a lot of plosive sounds in this, but we can check it out. This is a test audio vocal. 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 I really don't think we need to deal with plosives in this one, but I do think that this is a test audio vocal will be jumping up here if we raise this band. So let's see that. This is a test audio vocal. As you can see, this presence down here, that is a test along with the noise of the room. So it is helpful to just cut that right out. This is a test audio vocal. Very narrow EQ band. Let's note that we are lowering these sounds because they tend to stick out too much, but that these plosive and sibilant sounds are also the sounds that provide precise diction in speech. And we still need to make sure that there are not too many other sounds from our space or from instrumentation or anything else that are taking up space in these important frequency bands. There should not be other things there, which is why we cut out the frequencies of the room that laid in those frequency bands. As we notice that most of our other vocal sounds lie from around 200 to 500 hertz, we should scoop out a band of frequencies if we have a separate track playing of the room to allow space for our voice to be the main focus of presence in that band of frequencies as well. So let's say I had this room track playing at the same time as my vocals. I would take this EQ of this room track, and then I would just scoop out a little room from 200 to 500 hertz so that if any instrumentation or room sounds were occurring there, they would not be taking up the space that my voice needs to take up. I'm just gonna take off all this craziness. Yeah, so it would look a little bit like that, so that the room does not interfere. This is a test audio vocal. Obviously, we don't want to do that here because our voice is a test audio vocal would sound a lot weaker if we lowered that. This is a test audio vocal. So that just loses us volume of our voice a little. This is a leaving our 200 to 500K alone and just getting rid of any pesky stuff there. A lot of our diction actually occurs also at 8,000 hertz. So we're going to go up to 8,000 hertz, and we're just going to give it a little bump there, about 3K. This is a test audio vocal. Just to give our voice a little bit more clarity. This is a test audio vocal. So now that we've dealt with the different sounds of our voice, also this graph accounts for degree of hearing loss and how those different sounds would be heard to people with different degrees of hearing loss, which we can get into more another day. But next we have the Fletcher-Munson equal loudness curve. So this curve actually tells us what frequencies feel the best in the human ear overall. This curve shows how loudly a sound must be produced in order to be heard at the same perceived level. As we can see here, lower frequencies need to be played at a higher frequency than most higher frequencies, especially those ranging from 2 to 5K. Then super high frequencies from around 7K and up need to be played more loudly, like the lower frequencies to be picked up like those in the mid, high, and middle ranges. Therefore, if we have really low sounds that we want to play throughout our show, we know that we should play them a bit more loudly in order for them to be heard and perceived at the same level as our voices, especially because we know that they won't interfere with our voice as our voice has no presence that low. Any other frequencies ranging from 200 to 500 to 5,000 hertz, especially from 1 to 5,000 hertz, must be tamed as they will be competing to be heard with our voices and they will be perceived pretty loudly. We should turn up our voice from 1 to 5K to increase our presence and do a little boost to our voice at 8K, as I talked about, as well, in order to increase diction and audibility. As we can see that our diction and audibility happens up here, and right around 8K, it needs to be played a little bit louder to be heard at the same perceived volume. So we can see if we look at do I have more presence bands? Yes. A presence band here that a lot of our voice occurs in this band.
This is a test audio vocal. This is a test audio vocal.
It really takes a lot of our volume.
This
May boost it a bit, perhaps. We can do that just to
This is a test audio vocal.
and see how our voice
This is a test audio.
So we want to apply all of our changes here and listen to our original track again. So we're going to listen to it once through without anything, and then once through with all of our changes. So let's turn that EQ off, mute the room. Let's just listen to this test audio vocal file that we have going on.
This is a test audio vocal. This is a test audio vocal.
So in that original take, we can hear a lot of shuffling, a lot of disruptive noise. So let's see if we helped it out.
This is a test audio vocal. This is a test audio vocal. This is a test audio vocal. This is a test audio vocal.
Magic! As we see, our voice is more discernible and crisp, and there are less confusing or competing frequencies in our space. This practice makes a world of a difference in sound design and can be one of the most important things you can learn. Tune in next week as we dive deeper into the various ways to attack different frequency bands using alternative methods such as multipressors and noise gates. Have a great week. That's all for me. Thank you. I'm Sammy Worm, and thanks for joining me today to learn about EQ.